More than 5,000 years ago, when much of the world still slept in the darkness of prehistoric times, a group of settlers established themselves along the Yellow River, in what we now know as China. Those lands, bathed by the turbid waters of the mighty river, became the cradle of one of humanity's oldest and most fascinating civilizations. The origin of the Chinese people is lost in the mists of time and legend. According to the elders, it all began with Pangu, a semi-divine being who emerged from chaos contained within a cosmic egg. Upon breaking it, Pangu separated heaven and earth, maintaining this separation for 18,000 years until, exhausted by his effort, he died. His body gave rise to the elements of the world. His breath transformed into wind and clouds, his voice into thunder, his left eye into the sun, his right eye into the moon, and his blood flowed, forming rivers. It is even said that human beings were born from the parasites that inhabited his body. Other legends speak of Nugua, the goddess who repaired the sky using stones of 5 colors after the pillars supporting it collapsed. But most importantly, she created the first humans. With her skilled hands, she molded figures from yellow clay that, upon receiving the breath of life, became people. When she tired of this laborious method, she passed a rope through the mud, and the drops that fell formed new human beings, though these were considered of lower rank than those molded by hand. Fuxi, brother and husband of Nugua, also plays a crucial role in these stories. He is credited with inventing writing, building the first houses, and developing fishing techniques. Together, Nugua and Fuxi survived a great flood and, wishing to repopulate the earth, prayed to heaven for a sign of approval to unite despite their kinship. Heaven responded favorably, and thus the human lineage continued. Beyond myths, the first inhabitants of these lands were hunters and gatherers, who, over time, began to develop rudimentary agricultural techniques. They discovered they could cultivate millet in the fertile plains near the river, allowing them to permanently settle in villages and leave behind their nomadic lifestyle. They also domesticated animals such as pigs, dogs, and chickens, which became a fundamental part of their diet and economy. During the Neolithic period, approximately 7,000 years ago, the Yangshao culture emerged, one of China's first agricultural civilizations. Its people lived in semi-underground houses, cultivated millet, and raised pigs for sustenance. They developed advanced pottery techniques, creating vessels decorated with geometric patterns, human faces, and animals, which they used to store grains and cook. Along the Yellow River, other cultures flourished simultaneously. The Jiahu culture, established about 9,000 years ago, invented musical instruments such as bone flutes and produced the region's first pottery vessels. Archaeologists have discovered that even then, they consumed fermented beverages similar to wine, prepared with rice, honey, and fruits. The Longshan culture, which flourished about 5,000 years ago, marked a significant advancement. Its inhabitants used potter's wheels to create fine pieces of black pottery, built walled cities, and began working with jade, a precious stone that in China symbolized virtue and power. They also developed rice cultivation techniques and domesticated the silkworm, thus initiating the production of this valuable material that would later become one of the most coveted products along the Silk Road. Around the year 2200 BCE, according to traditions, the first dynasty emerged, the Xia dynasty. Its founder was Yu the Great, a skilled engineer who, after years of effort, managed to control the devastating floods of the Yellow River. He built canals and dikes that allowed better use of the waters for agriculture, thus earning the respect and loyalty of his people. Although long considered a legend, Recent archaeological findings suggest that this dynasty really existed. Yu the Great was a respected leader not only for his intelligence but also for his perseverance. It is said that he worked tirelessly to control the floods, passing by his own house 3 times without entering. So committed was he to his mission. After completing his feat, Shun, the last of the legendary 5 emperors, ceded the throne to him in recognition of his worth. The Xia dynasty extended for nearly 4 centuries, establishing the foundations of the dynastic system that would govern China for millennia. During this period, the population grew to exceed 2 million people. They developed advanced bronze metallurgy techniques and established a centralized government system with laws and tributes. However, the last Xia king, Zhou, became a cruel tyrant who oppressed his people. Ancient texts describe his excesses and extravagances, such as creating a lake of wine where boats sailed and forcing men and women to drink until they drowned for his entertainment. This tyranny provoked the uprising of Tong, who founded the next dynasty, the Shang. The Shang dynasty, which ruled from approximately 1600 to 1050 BCE, left much clearer evidence of its existence. Its capital, Anyang, has been excavated by archaeologists who have discovered palaces, temples, and richly adorned royal tombs. It was during this era that Chinese writing appeared, recorded on the famous oracle bones. These bones, generally ox scapulae or turtle shells, were used in divination ceremonies. Priests engraved questions on them, heated them until they cracked, and then interpreted the cracks as answers from the gods or ancestors. They then recorded the result on the same bone, thus creating China's first written documents. Many of these symbols are recognizable in current Chinese writing, showing an amazing cultural continuity through the millennia. Shang religion centered on ancestor worship and a supreme god called Shangdi. They firmly believed that their ancestors could influence the world of the living, so they performed elaborate rituals and sacrifices to win their favor. These sacrifices sometimes included animals, and on special occasions, even human beings. Shang artisans developed sophisticated techniques for working with bronze, creating ritual vessels, weapons, and ornaments of impressive complexity and beauty. Some of these objects weighed more than 800 kilograms and were decorated with intricate patterns and mythological figures. They also worked jade with great skill, considering it more valuable than gold for its spiritual qualities. Shang society was highly stratified. At the apex was the king, considered the intermediary between the earthly and divine worlds. He was followed by nobles, priests, warriors, artisans, and finally, peasants and slaves. The military power of the Shang largely resided in their horse-drawn war chariots, which gave them a considerable advantage in battles against neighboring tribes. During the late Shang period, known as the Anyang period, an unprecedented cultural flourishing occurred. Writing became more complex and abundant, metallurgy reached its peak, and trade relations were established with distant regions. In royal tombs, marine shells, jade from distant places, and other exotic objects have been found, demonstrating the existence of extensive trade networks. However, as often happens with empires, the Shang dynasty also had its decline. The last Shang king, Dixin, also known as Zhou, was brilliant but despotic. Chronicles speak of his cruelties and how he ignored state affairs to dedicate himself to pleasures. His favorite concubine, Daji, is described as a woman of extraordinary beauty but of an evil heart, who enjoyed inventing cruel forms of torture for entertainment. Popular discontent grew, and finally a western tribe called Zhou rebelled. Led by King Wen and later by his son King Wu, the Zhou defeated the Shang in the Battle of Muye, around the year 1046 BCE. Dixin, seeing his imminent defeat, dressed in his best jewels and threw himself into the fire, thus ending the Shang dynasty. The Zhou justified their rebellion with the concept of the mandate of heaven. According to this idea, heaven granted the emperor the right to rule. But if he became corrupt and tyrannical, heaven withdrew its mandate and transferred it to someone more worthy. This concept would have a lasting influence on Chinese political philosophy, legitimizing both imperial authority and the right to rebel against unjust rulers. As time progressed, Chinese civilization continued to evolve. Astronomy developed with remarkable precision. The ancient Chinese meticulously observed the skies, recording eclipses, comets, and supernovae centuries before other civilizations. They created an accurate lunar calendar that regulated both agricultural activities and religious festivities. In the Yangtze River Valley region, the Hemudu Neolithic culture domesticated rice about 7,000 years ago, thus complementing the millet cultivation that predominated in the north. This agricultural diversification allowed sustaining a constantly growing population and laid the foundations for territorial expansion to the south. The mysterious Sanxingdui culture, discovered in 1986 in Sichuan province, revealed a surprising facet of ancient China. Its inhabitants created enormous bronze masks with bulging eyes and exaggerated features, totally different from the artistic styles known from other Chinese regions. This culture flourished simultaneously with the Shang, but disappeared abruptly, leaving behind magnificent treasures buried ritually and countless unanswered questions. Meanwhile, in the northern and western steppes, nomadic peoples such as the Xiongnu raised horses and developed advanced mounted warfare techniques. Their relationship with the Chinese alternated between peaceful trade and violent incursions, a dynamic that would eventually lead to the construction of the first sections of the Great Wall. Over the centuries, China developed a solid and distinctive cultural identity. Its writing, which is not based on sounds but on concepts, allowed written communication between people who spoke different dialects and even different languages. The invention of paper, attributed to Kai Lun in the year 105 CE, revolutionized the dissemination of knowledge, although the first examples of primitive paper date from several centuries earlier. Chinese philosophy flourished especially during the Warring States period, between the years 470 and 221 BCE. Great thinkers such as Confucius, Laozi, and Mencius developed philosophical systems that addressed issues of ethics, government, and social harmony. Their teachings permeated all aspects of Chinese society and continue to influence Eastern thought to this day. Although written records only allow us to go back about 3,500 years with historical certainty, archaeological findings reveal a surprising cultural continuity. From the first settlers who carved stone tools on the banks of the Yellow River to the sophisticated society of the Zhou dynasty, the Chinese people forged an extraordinary civilization that, unlike many others, never disappeared, but continuously evolved to the present day. In the northwestern deserts, the Tarim mummies with their blonde hair and woolen clothes suggest early contacts with Indo-European peoples more than 4,000 years ago, demonstrating that China was never completely isolated from the rest of the world. At the same time, in every corner of the vast territory that today forms China, diverse cultures and ethnicities developed their own traditions and techniques, contributing to the rich cultural tapestry that would eventually be unified under the first emperor Qin Shi Huang in the year 221 BCE.